Deion Sanders blast reports about Shedeur Sanders, pretty much saying that he went into pre-draft interviews unprepared and unprofessional. I've been called baloney on this one, but y'all know we're going to talk about it and break it all down right after this.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's episode. So if you tuned in, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. Now, we heard a lot of different things in regards to Shedeur Sanders and why he slid to the fifth round in this year's 2025 NFL draft. And there was a lot of speculation that they was pretty much going after Deion Sanders, his dad. They didn't like what Shedeur Sanders put up on tape. They didn't believe that he was the most athletic. They didn't believe he had the strongest arm. I call a lot of baloney simply because there's no way you're trying to convince me that Dillon Gabriel is better than Shedeur Sanders, and a number of other quarterbacks that was selected before him was simply better than Shedeur Sanders. I understood the Jackson Dart stuff. I understood the Cam Ward stuff. But after those two, there were between Cam Ward, you could definitely make your argument for Jackson Dart, and you can make your argument for Shedeur Sanders, because there was a lot of different things that was coming out. You're talking about Jackson Dart not necessarily, being able to snap the ball to the level of a NFL quarterback. It was simply just a clap. And you've seen the clips with John Gruden being there. So it was just basically a clap just to snap the ball. And we knew that Shedeur Sanders pretty much ran an NFL-ready offense while he was playing throughout his collegiate career, because they was trying to set him up for success over there in Jackson State, and then later on with the Colorado. But Deion Sanders, he sat down on the Asante Samuel's podcast, and when they was talking about Shedeur Sanders in the draft and what transpired, Deion Sanders went on to say, when you sit up there and say something like he went into a meeting unprepared, like, dude, Shedeur Sanders, who has had 6 different coordinators, who has still functioned and went up, leveled up every time we brought somebody new in, and you're telling me he was unprepared? You're going to tell me he had on headphones? Anybody who knows my son understands he's a professional. He's going to go into a meeting with headphones on? Y'all, come on now. And that was foolish to me. That's just me personally. Like, this man understands that he has to go out there and map out a career for himself, and he knows that he's Deion Sanders' son. You think he's going to go out there and just be arrogant? That was something that didn't really make sense to me when you talk about Shedeur Sanders like that, simply because though a lot of people was turned off by the Rolly celebration or him being close to his dad and his dad kind of speaking out, it was kind of nonsense to me in that aspect when we talk about that stuff right there. But Deion Sanders went on to say it did hurt, but the Bible says God uses the foolish things to confound the wise. There was some foolish stuff that went on, but you know what? That gave them something that they needed. Like the edge that Tom had, it gave them the edge that you had. It gave them the edge that I have. Folks said we weren't going to be nothing, but we had to prove that. That gave them the edge that they needed, both of them, end quote. And I think that's something that we have to pay attention to. A lot of the times when it comes to these draft things, you got guys like Boomer Esiason talking greasy about Shedeur Sanders, and later on, just a few weeks, like a week or two ago, about Caleb Williams and things like that, and other guys pretty much strongly castigating these NFL players when they got to look at themselves in the mirror for some of the shit that they did when they were entering the draft. You know what I'm saying? We look at guys like John Elway, who pretty much had his camp say, we're not playing here, we want to go there. Eli Manning, we're not playing here, we want to go there. And all that stuff was like, okay, fine, cool. We're going to pretty much grant you what you want. And when Deion Sanders spoke up about his son, it was pretty much a turnoff. So I understand that, like, guys want to take control of their careers, but nobody was really batting an eye when the other guys did it. But it's a problem when I do it. It's crazy work. And I ain't finna go on and turn it into something that is really not. But it just points out that depending on who you are, depending on how well regarded you are amongst certain people, they'll look at you and castigate you in a way to make it seem like you're fucking crazy. And the way that Deion Sanders played, the way that Deion Sanders called himself prime time and changed that into something in the way that he spoke before the draft, I can understand some of the pushback on it, saying that my son not playing there, or this is what we're gonna do, or how we're gonna do it, because a dad is going to want to look out for his son. Same thing that we just talked about a couple weeks ago with Caleb Williams pretty much having his reservations about joining the Chicago Bears. It all makes sense. A father that cares and is active in their child's life, they're gonna want the best for their child, regardless if that's a young man or a young lady. It is what it is. So when those things go out there and people kind of turn a blind eye to it, I look at them crazy, because I said it when I did the Caleb Williams video. I said when I'm on X and I'm going back and forth with certain people on different football topics. Like, bro, if you work your tail off and you walk into an interview and you talk to the hiring manager or talk to the staff you're interviewing with, you're gonna ask questions about how are they going to prepare you to elevate. I don't want to be at an entry level position for my entire life. I want to see what's the timeline. What do I need to do to prepare myself and propel myself to reach new heights to where I can be the most successful. So when people turned that eye and looked at Deion Sanders a certain way and placed it on his son, it was a bit crazy to me. And honestly, it was bullshit. If we calling it how we really see it, it was straight bullshit. And to say that this guy was unprofessional and he wasn't prepared, I don't know what transpired in those damn interview rooms. I don't know. We've seen few clips of different prospects here and there. I seen Jackson Dart. I believe Dylan Gabriel was out there in some pre-draft stuff with some interviews that was released. We have not seen, or at least unless I missed it, I have not seen any film being placed out there with how interviews went with Shedeur Sanders. So is it real? Look, if you ain't put it on wax, it's fake. That's just how I'm looking at it. Because if you're gonna sit there and you're gonna say anomalously, yeah, it was probably one of the worst interviews I ever seen in my life. Really? Over guys like Johnny Manziel? That's all I'm saying. Because Johnny Manziel, before he came into the league, he was full of himself already. Already. And that was on display everywhere he went. He was still selected in the first round, though. See, that's the thing right there. And so that's why I call it baloney. And I'm happy that Deion Sanders spoke out about it. And because there's some realness to all this when we sit there and we go and we look at these young players and we say, hey, how does he react to this said question? How does he react to this said question? There's going to be different reaction and different responses. If there's going to be a guy that sometimes answered all the majority of the questions humbly. There's going to be guys that answer questions confidently. And sometimes if you are a person that has insecurities, or you have a demeanor or a personality, and you want to hear someone's humbleness or speak with a lot of humility, you're going to be turned off by the guy that comes in and speak confidently, that speak with his head held high, that believes in himself the most, that places challenges on himself. Now, I wouldn't go out there and say that Shedeur Sanders probably was perfect, but I'm going to say the film still showed us he was better than most of the quarterbacks selected before him. Period. That's how, like, see, and that's the thing that get a lot of the NFL organizations caught up in their feelings, and why a lot of NFL organizations continue to do stupid things. And you see people now pivoting from being one of the best franchises in the league to now we scratching our heads at them. And yes, I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got a lot of smoke for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was one of those franchises I held to a high regard. And for some strange reason, the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing like idiots. period. When it comes to this offseason, I understand you eventually selected a quarterback. I don't know how it will translate to in this NFL. I could be very well wrong in that. But to wait on a 40-year-old quarterback and make that decision and just sit on the sideline and say, yeah, if we don't get Aaron Rodgers, we're going to go after Kirk Cousins. What? Have you seen Kirk Cousins the last few seasons? Have you seen Aaron Rodgers the last 5 years? That's the same thing. So it comes down to it, man. And if these guys are going to go out there and they're going to castigate Shedeur Sanders, which he's not, he's an NFL player. He's a grown-ass man. He's not exempt from any criticism. But the point is be real about the criticism. Can the man play ball? How is the personality? How does his teammates feel about him? Keep the main thing, and stop trying to make it into something else. Hence why, again, we got smoke, or at least I have smoke, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not keeping the main thing. They are making this into a damn circus. So when Deion Sanders come out and he blasts those reports, I'm 100% with him. It's baloney. Put it on wax or keep it to yourself. I know a lot of guys, they get the run with the anonymous NFL scout, anonymous executive. Look, it is what it is. You don't have to necessarily put your name out. That's kind of always been the way of the game. But, hey, the New York Giants didn't like how he interviewed. It's that simple. You didn't like how they interviewed because they already received a lot of smoke for how they treated Saquon. We already could expect that they probably had a few or different ways that they handle business in this upcoming draft. And Brian Daboll had the right to go ahead and like whoever he wanted to like in this draft. And he liked Jackson Dart. We seen those clips. But if y'all gonna release clips like that, release the clips that show us that Shedeur Sanders walked in with headphones and unprepared. Show us. That's all I'm asking for. It'll be great for us. It'll be great for us. But as a father, Deion Sanders did absolutely nothing wrong with how he went about his business and talking about how his son was being viewed. And I will say this to end it on a positive note. Use it as the fuel to the fire. Go out there, bust Dylan Gabriel ass in practice, bust Joe Flacco ass in practice, Kenny Pickett, and go out there and show. Because if they go out there and you're the Cleveland Browns and you start any one of those quarterbacks before the quarterback who's supposed to be the quarterback, you're going to feel it in your locker room. You're going to feel it in your locker room. You can only go out there and say Joe Flacco is starting for so long. You can only go out there and say Kenny Pickett is starting for so long. You can only go out there and say Dylan Gabriel is starting for so long before the real quarterback. Even if it's not Shedeur, he still got to prove it on his own. Even if Shedeur is placed in the starting role and he stinks up the joint. If those guys in the locker room feel like Dylan Gabriel gives them the best opportunity, start him. The locker room is going to tell you who they believe in. And when that time comes, they're going to have to answer for who they placed as the starting quarterback for their franchise. So I say, Shedeur Sanders, the ball is in your court. Take care of business, put in your work, and go out there and ball. And we hope that the Cleveland Browns do their due diligence and put their best foot forward to make sure that the guy that has earned it, that has earned the starting role, gets the job, whether that's Shedeur Sanders or not. But we still feel like, or at least me, it was baloney for how it all transpired. But what is done is done. Now it's time to move forward. Now it's time to push on. And let's see what the young kid is made of. To his dad's point, now you got an edge. Now you got a chip on your shoulder. Go out there and take care of business now. But hey, that is it for me, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of NFL Central. Before y'all get up out of here, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're going to keep this content rolling on. So if you've been enjoying it, man, the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank y'all so much. Make sure you always love football, and I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.